Honey Sound Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Bilko Media Network.
So Man in the High Castle Season 2, we originally planned to do this review, the week after it dropped, to try to catch the bandwagon of getting this review out there when people are interested in, but now here we are, like a month later, and we all watched it in time. It just that we just couldn't get together to do this. But I mean, if we could start getting into the story and following along with that, I thought it started off pretty strong because in the first episode, if you recall, they like shot Juliana. It ended up being a trank gun, but when they shot her, I'm like, oh my god, they really killed her. And I'm like, that's good for you, Amazon. I'm impressed you killed off this main character in the first season, in the first episode of the season. Because what happens when you kill off a main character? It's always like the season finale, not the first episode. So I was impressed that Amazon killed off this main character right at the get-go. But then you learn, gosh darn it, she was actually tranked instead. So, kudos to Amazon goes out the window. The dude keeps saying, "Oh, you show up in all of my films. No matter what happens, you're always there," which is bizarre because if we want to talk about this for a little bit, like, A, where does this man in the high castle get his films from? Because that was never really explained. And two, yeah, how does this person end up being like in the film, in these random films that were filmed, no matter what, which is weird. Now they kind of explained where the films came from a little bit when the Japanese guy like willed his way into the other dimension or whatever happened there. Like the whole season, yeah, he's like, I'm just gonna go and live in this other world for months and months, it seems like. And like, did nobody like in the other, like, I assume this all takes place in real time. Is like, if he's gone in one world, he's missing in the other for this period, and nobody seemed to care that he just disappeared for however long it was. Yeah, he's like the boss, so he can kind of do whatever he wants, I guess. But it's just kind of bizarre that he just right. And well, on his, I guess when he came back for the final time or whatever, he brought that film with him, right? And so you can make this assumption that that's how the Man in the High Castle films became in existence to the world, but how in the world did the Man in the High Castle just collect these? Like, who is he grabbing these films from? Because it doesn't seem like he's the one jumping over and like collecting these and then going back. It's like he's getting these from other people. Well, like you said, like I think the writers don't know what they're doing because this season really just continues to show that. That is correct. But yeah, well, he even like burns most of the films down except for like a small pile he takes with him. Like what, what was that about? I don't either. But then who did they give the films to at the end? Was it the Japanese people? I'm blanking there because I remember the tall black guy comes with the pile and he gives it to somebody, but I forget who he gives it to. You remember that? Yes, right. Because like I was saying, everything seems to follow Juliana, and everything's connected to Juliana somehow. She's always in all the films, and somehow she plays a larger role than she realizes. But whatever that is hasn't been really revealed yet. The Bikini Bottom hydrogen test, which I have a complaint about this because they used that tape to justify not attacking the Japanese because they said, oh my God, they have this thing called the hydrogen bomb. Well, the trade minister, I mean, it's supposedly a Japanese test. So, I mean, I guess the real question is why didn't they ask the Obergruppenführer where he got it from? But here's the thing, because don't those tapes show like American ships with like American flags and all this stuff? Like, wouldn't that be a red flag? And they're gonna say, oh yeah, we have this. Go ahead. Yeah, he was good. Yep. Yep. Right. Yeah. Well, here's another. Well, I mean, they used decommissioned World War II like aircraft carriers and frigates and all that to bomb, and it's like that's American ships. What wouldn't again that would be a pretty red flag to me. But the other problem I have with this whole thing is that this is what 1962, 1963 in Man in the High Castle time. You're telling me that the Nazis won World War II and never even bothered to further develop their nuclear program? Like we had the hydrogen bomb in like 53, like like 10 years before this period in time, and the Nazis landed on the moon. Heck, they even landed on Mars, and you're telling me they never elaborated on their on their nuclear program and even created the hydrogen bomb, which obviously is the next logical step to make because we did it like like 7 years after World War II. So I do not believe that the Nazis did not even develop their own nuclear arsenal further. Exactly. And even on the Japanese front, I mean, they never even had nukes before, and they don't even have nukes now. And it's like you're telling me in 20 years the Japanese have never thought to develop their own nuclear program when the Nazis did? Like, look at the Russians. The Russians came out with a nuke or an atom bomb like in 48 or something like that, like 3 years after World War II. And basically, in this context, you can think of the Japanese as the Russians, a global powerhouse after the World War ends. You're telling me they never bothered to develop this atom bomb? Like, I don't buy it. Well, yeah. Yep. Well, that's kind of what happened in the first season. Didn't they like smuggle over some nuclear bomb plans or something on microfiche? Yeah. That was another thing. In this season, what they started to create their own nuclear bomb in like the middle of San Francisco. Like, could you not pick a lesser safe area to develop your nuclear program? What? I thought they created that town in like Tennessee. What's it called? Oak Ridge, yeah. And then they went to the middle of the desert to like do their testing, and they built that other facility. So I would have thought that like the Japanese would have done the same. Why aren't they going to the middle of the Mojave or something? Why are they building this in downtown San Francisco? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because they're all wearing like Geiger counters and stuff. And somehow Frank knew what that was, which I don't see how he could have known. Right, because they were gonna like bomb that facility because the general meets there like once a day for like 30 minutes or something. And then when they opened the gate or something, Frank saw that they were all wearing Geiger counters, and he realizes they're developing a nuclear program. And it's like, what? How do you even know what that is? Well, they didn't try to do it at all. They tranked her so that she can meet the man in the high castle. There was no attempted, or I guess at the end they tried to kill her, right? Assistant is from Nagasaki. Yeah, he did the same thing. He like whims his way into this other universe and just kind of stays there because his other world got blown up, literally. I didn't either. That was kind of, and it's kind of weird too. Like, because when we were talking about this in the first review, we were saying like, oh, Hitler would create some kind of time travel device, or there's some kind of scientific reasoning behind how they can travel between these worlds or whatnot, but there's none of that. It's just kind of like I'm gonna think myself into this other dimension and I just go there, and it's like, what? But I mean, wasn't the whole main goal of everybody's story to prevent the new war, which didn't they do? Right. I mean, maybe it's just it just postponed the inevitable, but I mean, what now do they have to work towards? Right? I mean, crisis averted, right? That was like the last scene of the last episode. Although as soon as the Germans realize that footage is, the Japs don't have a hydrogen bomb because all they have to do is go to like get some kind of, I'm sure they have satellites by this point. Just look at Bikini Bottom and say, "Oh, it's not destroyed. This must be a fake." Seismographs, yeah. You would have seen it. Yeah. Right. Well, yeah. I mean, if you remove the whole alternate dimension tape story, I mean, I think you still have a pretty good show, and I don't know why they just can't stick to that. Why do they need this weird sci-fi overlay with the tapes? I mean, I guess you're not making it any easier as you go along. You keep it mysterious, and it's always this thing off in the distance that's, like you said, it's a nagging fly that keeps annoying you, but they never explain it, or you don't get satisfaction in understanding what's going on. Right. Right. All we know is what the Japanese guy told the other Japanese guy, like the trade minister in like season one. We were like, "Oh, go meditate in the garden," and then all of a sudden, by meditating, that's when he kind of jumped over. But again, like I don't see how by meditating, what are the physics behind you allowing you to jump dimensions? Like, yes, because if you, well, let's just if you can bring back a tape, why not a book, or why not some technology, or something, right? It wouldn't really work. Well, yeah, I mean, you got to think as advanced as the Nazis were. I mean, I'm impressed they don't have VHS by that stage, or you know what I mean? Like, it would be incompatible, is what you're getting at. Correct. Which, by the way, I on my way here to Destin, I started listening to Man in the High Castle on tape. I got about 2 hours in of I think like a 12-hour book, so I'm kind of still in the beginning, but there are some stark differences um, between the show and the book itself, which I thought was kind of interesting. For example, that antique guy who runs the shop. He's kind of like a really side character in the first season, and he kind of became like a more involved side character in this season. He's like a main guy in the book. In fact, it like starts out with him as like this main guy. Now, I don't know. There hasn't been any talk of resistance or any of this nonsense, or really, it's just him living out his normal life, running that shop. And then you have like Juliana, who starts in Carson City and is divorced of Frank 3 years out, which I thought was interesting because in the show, obviously they're together in the beginning, and then she like runs away to Carson City. And then you also had like Frank, what was he doing? He was already making the fake antiques, and some guy's like, why don't you just make your own stuff instead of copying, fake stuff? Because he was already doing that like on the side, like peddling counterfeit antiques. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The other thing that I guess they mentioned so far was that the Nazis, instead of flying on their Concorde-like planes, they have rockets, and they fly Stockholm to San Francisco in 45 minutes. I don't know how you do that without killing your people on board through the G-forces, but that they made that a pretty 'cause like you remember in the first show they had that like one guy who like smuggles in that microfiche we were talking about earlier. I think he came from Berlin and then ended up killing himself in front of Hitler at the end of last season or something. His character in this one in the book he's some guy from Stockholm flying out to San Francisco to meet with the Japanese, just like he did at the beginning of the other one, but he was coming from Berlin in the series. Um, but they made a big deal of like, oh yeah, I can't believe this German technology, Stockholm to San Francisco in just 45 minutes or something like that. And like, how do you even do that? Because that's literally like 12,000 miles. True, but that's 90 minutes. I mean, divide that by half. I mean, there's your 45. But you still have to take off and land. It's not like an instant there and back. So I don't know. Yeah, they're just because, like they said, because they like followed the guy on the trip, so they like take off in a rocket and then they land the rocket, Elon Musk style, with using its own power to land face up. But that's kind of, I mean, that's all I really know at this point in the book itself. Like I said, I'm only 2 hours in. They just kind of talk about what life is like for the characters. They don't go into anything specialized yet in terms of the main storyline. So I'm kind of excited when I go home to listen to the rest of it. Keep going. Right. Well, I'm kind of in the same position I was at the end of season one, which was I think they're just gonna all wake up one day and realize this is all just like a video game or a simulation that they were playing. Because that would explain how they're able to will their way into other dimensions. Because it's a video game, you can do that kind of stuff. It's a cop out, is really what that would be. But I've seen it happen before, like on the Mars show, Life on Mars. Yeah, that's how they explain that one. Right. Well, it's like I can't conceive anything else of how you explain how you're just able to will your way into other dimensions. I really wish Hitler was behind the whole thing. That would have been awesome. Like how you were talking about, like, oh, Hitler was so distraught that his rank like destroys the world in this new era that he like invents a time machine to go back and like fixes it so that he loses or something like that. Right. Well, here's the thing. Like, we haven't really talked about this. It obviously goes both ways. I mean, you think about that Nagasaki guy. He came from our world into this other one. So, are there other people who came from our world, went to this world, and brought back things to our world? Maybe that's how we win the war. Is somebody goes to this world, realizes, oh my God, somebody assassinates FDR, goes back, saves his life, and we win. Yeah, oh my God, this is going to happen on May the 15th. No, I watch it to see how the Nazis took over America and what life is like under that scenario. I mean, that's the draw. If it wasn't Nazis and it was just, random sitcom like Friends with these weird tapes of an alternate universe, like, who cares? It must be true. I think so too. Like I said, like if they would have just told the story of Nazis winning World War II, taking over America, and have the resistance rise up, fight back, and take the country back. Why do you need some weird tape thing in there? Like, why can't you tell that story? Because I think that's ultimately where this is going is somehow like the rank, Nazism is gonna be defeated by the end of the show, I suspect. Because, the good guys always win kind of thing. They're not gonna leave it, I don't think, with like the Nazis ruling the world. I mean, maybe they will. Maybe they will take over Japan and all this stuff happens and all the main characters jump to our world to like get away from that or something like that. But even under that scenario, like there's no more Nazis in their world, so good guys wins. And I think that's ultimately what's going to happen here. So why can't you tell that story without this stupid film thing? Yeah, yeah. Mhm. And I'm also wondering like how many more seasons will they drag this out because it sounds like it's starting to wrap itself up, but seems to be a cash cow for Amazon. I mean, it's like their most number one watch show on their Amazon Prime. So from a corporate perspective, they want to keep this thing going for as long as they can. So they're really gonna milk it. And unfortunately, that's how so many good series is just destroy themselves. I mean, you look at like Stargate. I mean, to me, it started getting weird towards the end, and there's nothing you can do about that because people demand more, and exactly before you start like stretching it out. Oh yeah, it's got some problems it's got to work out. Yep, yep. Can we talk about the open grouping for a second here? Because there's something I don't really understand. I mean, so he's the head of the SS in America, right? Does that make him like the president of America? Like, how much power does this guy have? Because they kind of make it seem like he's like the head cheese around there, but then they also make it seem like he's kind of a low level employee, also. Right, I mean, because that's like the German police force, kind of, right? Right. That's kind of that's the level I'm thinking they kind of make him seem at times, but they keep talking like he's the head of the SS of America, as in like he's like the president or like the general above everybody. Like that's what I don't understand. So who is who is like the president of America? Do they have like a governor? Right, because the Americas are almost seen like the colonies were of the olden days, right? I mean, it's a German colony, so they have to have some kind of government leadership running the show. And if it's not the Obergruppenführer, they never really mention who is. Yeah, because it'd be interesting to know how that works. Because, like I said, they never really mention any of that. They kind, like I said, they kind of play it up like Obergruppenführer is the head honcho, but then most of the time they play it up like he's just, the police chief of New York or something like that, more low level. But if you think about his history, I mean, he was an American soldier in World War II. How does an American end up being the head of the SS? I would have thought Germany would have appointed one of their own, wouldn't they? Because that seems to be a pretty big trust there that this American soldier of past years, an American citizen, to lead your SS? I mean, this is a Nazi SS agent from America. That didn't sit well with me when that was revealed. Certainly, but like the head guy, you don't appoint one of your own to be that person. You go with this American. But when the Nazis took him over, I mean, they still sent in their own SS troops to kind of do their own SS things. Right, right. And I think that's where you're getting at of why that kind of mindset translated to what happened in America, which very well may be the case. But again, we're talking about the SS here. I would think Germany would want to keep that all German. I don't either, but it's such a cool title. Actually, I think I tried to translate it on Google Translate, and I think it means like leadership leader or something like that. I can probably look at it right now. I gotta learn how to spell it first. Obergruppenführer. Group leader. Oh, that's Gruppenführer. We want Obergruppenführer. Oh, here's the Wikipedia article. Obergruppenführer till April 42 is the highest commissioned SS rank, translated as senior group leader. Yeah, like I said, I just thought it was weird that he was an American when they kind of revealed his backstory, which I think why they did that was so that he'd be sympathetic towards his son when he found out he was sick, because I would think a legit Nazi wouldn't care whether he's his son or not, and if he has a disease, and if you're a diehard Nazi, for the greater good, gotta kill him. True.
This has been a presentation of Honey Sound Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Bilko Media Network.